I spend my time delivering results for the people of Florida and fighting against Joe Biden. That's how I spend my time. I don't spend my time trying to smear other Republicans. That's right.
So this is actually pretty huge news here. You can see Ron DeSantis, the biggest challenger to Donald Trump, is actually responding to Trump for the first time. Trump has been attacking him for quite a while, but because of Trump's still pretty massive factious support in the Republican Party, you can't attack him directly. That's why all of the people that go after him, who were elected officials, lost their seat, or people who are criticizing him now are not in politics anymore, because you simply can't afford to criticize him. And even in this video, you can see that he's not mentioning him by name because he wants to avoid attacking Trump. And if I'm DeSantis, political strategist wise, don't attack Donald Trump. Like if you're, obviously I'm not a fan of DeSantis either, right? But it's like, if you're running your political strategy, your strategy is don't attack him, just let him self-destruct, basically. It kind of makes you look better, and then you have, I would say, just much less to gain from this. A lot of people are saying, oh, Trump is going to destroy him in the debates. Again, we kind of need to ground like our analysis of this in kind of like a political analysis, political science kind of view. First of all, debates don't have much of an impact on the outcome of elections. Their impacts on elections are very marginal. I know like we look at the theater and stuff like that and think that that's like somehow the reason why they were losing. Those candidates didn't lose or win because of the debates. It just didn't happen that way. They have very marginal impact on the outcomes of debates. Donald Trump was winning because of the stuff that he was saying in the media coverage that he was getting, not because of his performance in the debates. And a lot of the debate performance stuff came from kind of like that, the other candidates sucking. It was kind of like more of like the other way around. Like he was doing really well in the debates because he was doing really well in the election. It's like kind of like a reverse thing. And so he's not a good debater. I did think that Gillum destroyed him pretty bad in the debates. So he's not like great debater, but the debating won't matter. And here's the problem. So I'm seeing all the people talking about this because his response here is pretty weak. And he's saying like he's taking the holier than thou route, which is the right strategy to take politically. It's the right strategy for trying to win political strategy wise. And everybody's political analysis here seems to be, oh, Trump is going to wipe him. He's so weak. Is he going to get jabbed or cruised? You're not understanding how this thing works. It's a very like narrow view and failed understanding, because here's the thing, right? We are not in 2016 anymore. This is not 2016. So in 2016, Trump being a bully and an attacker against Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and all that stuff worked. But to be clear, it only worked because none of them came, the Republican elites were not able to come around one singular candidate. If they had picked one specific candidate like a Ted Cruz or a Marco Rubio or somebody, they probably would have been able to win. But they just simply weren't unified enough to actually come around against someone. So then it probably wouldn't have worked. That worked for, like, the Trump 2016 thing is so annoying because it barely worked. It barely worked, such as marginal victory. And it's, like, barely worked. So many things. It was a perfect storm that went right. And so, but to think that somehow that this is the same environment is laughable. It's like saying that, like, Obama would have done as well in, like, 2020 as he would have in 2008. It's just, like, it's not the way things work. Political wins are more to do with the environment rather than the person. So like FDR couldn't have won like in a different environment, in some kind of different environment that you could plug him into. It's just not going to work. So a lot of it is due to the environment. The environment now is people want somebody who is going to go after Joe Biden and unite the Republican Party and that kind of thing, as opposed to just the complete destructionary craziness that, Trump does. So the political analysis, I just think, is really, really severely flawed. If you're trying to say, oh, he's going to wipe him, he's going to destroy him like he did Ted Cruz. We're not in 2016 anymore. Newsflash. This isn't 2016 anymore. Nobody's looking for that. Republicans aren't even looking for that. The Republicans at this point are trying to find someone to kind of champion who can kind of lead them forward. That's the whole reason why Trump sent out, I just did a video. I don't think it'll be up by the time this video is out. But he praised Joe Biden's State of the Union address. And so the question is, why? Why? The reason is because part of it is because he wants to make himself more mainstream and acceptable, and especially to kind of position himself as like the middle of the road candidate as contrasted with Ron DeSantis. That's a big reason why. And so you're just wrong if you think that, oh, he's going to wipe them. No, he's not. Like, they're not going to be receptive. That's why and it's evidenced by Trump's change. You can see it. He's changing for a reason. There's a reason why he's less bombastic, less incendiary. You can see that he's just not as like even his announcement, right? Remember the first announcement in 2016, he's coming down an escalator and all this craziness, and he's making crazy, like polarizing comments, just crazy comments, right? Is he doing any of that right now? Not really. And he's praising Joe Biden, and his announcement this time was very tame and very tepid and slow. It's because you have to alter your political strategy to the environment. And so that environment where you had 8 years of Barack Obama, you had like the status quo, then you had Hillary Clinton as your opponent, perfect storm, and he was able to win. If it was Joe Biden in 2016, no chance Trump would have won. And so now the environment is different than it was in 2016. So you can't plug in and just like all of a sudden win again with the same strategy. And so what I'm saying is evidenced by the fact that he's changing his own strategy right now. You can see it. So anybody who thinks that, oh, he's going to destroy him in the debates, A, debates don't really matter that much in elections. B, I mean, debates honestly are probably the biggest thing, or for picking your vice presidential candidate. Usually there seems to be kind of a good correlation with that. But they don't really make much of an impact. And then this is not 2016 where the Republicans are going to go for just the craziest dude on the planet. That's not how this is going to work. So this is actually good strategy. If anything, I would just keep on the down low. I wouldn't even say anything because, Hitler actually ended up doing this because when Hitler was, on the rise to trying to become chancellor, von Hindenburg was the president. And he couldn't go after him. That was the one guy because he was like a really venerated World War I, general. And so he had to like wait him out, basically. He had to wait him out until he died or like was really like at a low point. And so you have to that's the strategy he's going to have to use. Like just dodge him. Like don't say anything. His hits are not going to do anything to you. I don't think Trump's hits are really going to damage DeSantis at all. I don't think they're really going to do anything. So it's a common strategy when there's somebody trying to overtake someone else. You can see it throughout history where you just kind of have to avoid them, avoid mentioning them by name or like attacking them. But, who's going to end up winning? If it's DeSantis versus Trump, DeSantis easily. He easily wins if it's a 1v1. If it's a factious, situation where it's DeSantis, Trump, Rubio, Cruz, Christie, Haley, all these people, then Trump is probably going to win because Trump thrives off of just being able to get a small plurality, like a barely plurality. That's what he thrives off of. He needs that environment because he can't garner like a general coalition, even in the Republican primary, especially now that the elites have really, really turned on him. They already didn't really fuck with him in the beginning, but now they really are against him. You saw Rupert Murdoch's publications coming after him. So he needs that factious victory. If it's a 1v1, he's got no chance against DeSantis. DeSantis is not only loved by the MAGA people, but he'll also be able to appeal to Republicans generally. Although he might be a little bit extreme in some ways, too. I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to be. I don't know. It's going to be hard to tell. But 1v1, DeSantis, easy money. Factious, I say Trump. If it's a split, if it's splintered, Trump is easily going to win because Trump has that faction that's just super strong that will not let him go. But it's also not a majority. So I think Trump wins in a splintered. If it's a 1v1, DeSantis wins. And I think DeSantis' strategy here is really smart in terms of let him self-destruct. It's kind of like using the Joe Biden strategy, basically. The basement strategy is what it's called. Use the basement strategy, let him self-implode, and then you take over, right? That's the smart strategy. I'm surprised he's even responding here. I know it's like the grooming allegations and stuff. I'm honestly surprised even responding here. I feel like not responding to Trump just makes him look even weaker because it's like, oh, when like someone disses you and then like the biggest like diss is like to not respond. Eminem not responding to Nick Cannon's diss tracks, for example, or something like that. That kind of a thing. Or like, oh, Jay-Z put out Super Ugly and then Nas didn't even put out another response. He's just like, I already won. Like there's no, like that's the biggest diss you can do sometimes, right? So that's kind of this situation. So I'm surprised even responding right now, to be honest with you. But this is a message that's going to win the Republican primary if it's a 1v1. If the elites come around Ron DeSantis, the asterisk there is if it's, again, just a crazy, like, brokered race where there's, like, 16 candidates, Trump is definitely going to win because he has the strongest cohort, like, not cohort, like the strongest, piece that's going to get him to victory. But he can't garner, like, a full, total. I think he probably would have lost even in 2016 if they came around somebody, but they just fucking couldn't because there was so much division amongst the Republicans with the Tea Party and the John McCains of the world and that stuff. So interesting stuff going down here.